My people, gather round, come closer, because the story I'm about to tell you will shake everything you thought you knew about marriage, about winning, and about what it really means to lose. You know that couple everyone talks about, the ones who make you question your own relationship, the husband who posts anniversary tributes that make grown women cry, the wife with the designer everything, the big house, the foreign trips, the smile that never fades even in candid photos. My people, I need you to understand something that might save your life or at least save your sanity. Sometimes the most beautiful package contains the most bitter poison. Sometimes what glitters brightest is actually burning the person holding it. And sometimes, just sometimes, the woman you're envying is not living a dream. She's surviving a nightmare with makeup on. Today, I'm going to tell you about a woman named Adeze. And by the time I finish this story, you'll never look at another woman's marriage the same way again. You will understand that not everyone who loses has lost, and not everyone who wins has won. So settle in, adjust yourself, because this journey we're about to take, it will make you laugh, it will make you angry, and if you have sense, it will make you think twice before you ever envy what you cannot see behind closed doors. Before we get into this story, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being someone who wants truth instead of sugar-coated lies. And because you're here, because you care enough to watch, I want to ask you to take it one step further. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We're building something special here, a community of people who value real talk over fake perfection. I want you to be part of it. Hit that like button to show your appreciation for the work that goes into creating these stories. It takes hours to craft content like this, and your like tells me it's worth it. And leave a comment below. Tell me what brought you to this video. Tell me what you hope to learn. Or just say, thank you for the truth. I read every single comment and they mean the world to me. Subscribe, like, comment. 3 ways to say, I'm here, I'm listening, and I value this content. Now, let me take you to Enugu. Let me introduce you to the perfect couple. Let me show you what perfect really costs. In the heart of Independence Layout, Enugu, where the big houses sit behind tall gates and the streets smell like old money and new ambition, there lived a woman the whole community knew as Chief's wife. But her name, her real name, was Adeze. Adeze. Beautiful Adeze. The woman whose wedding photos still circulated on WhatsApp status updates 5 years later as the definition of couple goals. If you saw her stepping out of that Mercedes-Benz at the ShopRite on a Saturday afternoon, her skin glowing like she bathes in milk and honey, her lace perfectly tailored, her makeup flawless, you would stop and stare. You would nudge your friend and whisper, "See blessing. God, when is my own turn?" And her husband, Chief Emeka, standing at 6 feet 3 inches, with a jawline that could cut glass and a bank account that could buy happiness. Or so everyone thought. Chief Emeka owned 3 properties in Enugu alone. 4 luxury cars rotated in his garage like a personal car showroom. His businesses stretched from Lagos to Abuja to Port Harcourt. The man was what our mothers called well-established. But it wasn't just the money that made people worship them. No, my people. It was the way he treated her in public. The performance was so good, even Hollywood would applaud. At weddings, Chief Emeka would stand up during the toasts, microphone in hand, and declare with his chest swelling with pride, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this moment to appreciate the queen of my life, my wife, my treasure, my everything. Adaeze, you are the reason I wake up every morning. You are my crown, my glory." And he would kiss her hand, slowly, dramatically, while the DJ played romantic music and women in the crowd wiped tears from their eyes. At church on Sundays, he would hold her waist as they walked to their reserved front row seat. He would share his hymn book with her, his deep voice harmonizing with her soft one. After service, he would introduce her to visiting bishops and businessmen, saying, "This is my beautiful wife, my pride and joy." The single women would go home, throw themselves on their beds and cry into decorative pillows, asking God why their own boyfriends couldn't even text them back. The married women would look at their own husbands with disappointment and wonder what Chief Emeka had that their men were missing. Even Adaeze's own friends, the ones who were supposed to know her, would say, "Adaeze, you are so lucky. You've really hit jackpot with this one. May our own husbands learn from Chief." If only they knew. If only someone had told them that the brightest lights often hide the darkest shadows. You see, my people, there's a particular kind of hell that exists only behind closed doors. The kind that you can't see from the outside. The kind that wears a designer suit and smiles for cameras. The kind that says, "I love you" in public and "I'll kill you" in private. Because the moment, and I mean the exact moment, that heavy gate slid shut, the moment those thick curtains were drawn, the moment the house help had retired to her quarters, Chief Emeka transformed. It was like watching a demon possess a man's body. The loving husband vanished, and in his place stood a monster. That same hand that kissed hers so tenderly at the wedding, that hand would wrap around her throat at night, squeezing until she saw stars, all because she forgot to warm his bathing water to the exact temperature he liked. Not too hot, not too cold. Exactly 78 degrees. And yes, he measured it. That same mouth that called her my treasure, my everything, in front of guests, that mouth would lean close to her ear in the darkness of their bedroom and whisper the most poisonous words. "You are nothing. You hear me? Nothing. Without my money, you would be selling oranges by the roadside like your useless mother. Your own father practically begged me to marry you because he knew nobody else would want damaged goods. You should be on your knees, thanking me every single day that I picked you from the gutter." Some nights, Adaeze would sleep on the cold marble floor of their walk-in closet because she had arranged his shoes by color instead of by brand. She would curl up like a child, her body aching, her spirit broken, listening to him snore peacefully in their king-size bed while she shivered among the Italian leather and designer labels. During the day, she would wear long sleeves even when Enugu's sun was doing its worst, baking the city like an oven. People would compliment her modest dressing, not knowing she was hiding the fingerprint bruises that decorated her arms like twisted jewelry. She became a master artist with makeup, not to enhance beauty, but to conceal evidence. Foundation to cover the yellowish bruise on her cheekbone. Concealer for the split lip from 2 nights ago. Powder to hide the marks on her neck. And yet, she stayed. Month after month, year after year, 7 years of this. Why, you might ask? Why didn't she just leave? My people, let me tell you something about how abusers work. They don't just break your body. That would be too simple. No, they break your mind first. They convince you that you're the problem. They make you believe that you're lucky to be abused by them. Chief Emeka had spent 7 years building a prison in Adeze's mind, brick by brick, insult by insult. He would remind her constantly that she came from nothing, that her father was just a poor spare parts dealer in Aba who could barely afford her school fees, that her mother died when she was young, leaving her with no one to teach her how to be a proper wife, that he, Chief Emeka, in his infinite mercy and benevolence, had seen past all her inadequacies and made her into somebody. Look at you now, he would say, during his calmer moments, the ones where he didn't hit her, but the words cut just as deep. Look at the life I've given you, the house, the car, the respect. Without me, who are you? Where would you be? Do you think any other man would tolerate your incompetence? I am your saviour, Adeze, and you should worship the ground I walk on. And Adeze, broken and exhausted, believed him. She convinced herself that this was normal, that every marriage had its struggles, that the price of living in a mansion was sleeping on a closet floor sometimes, that the cost of wearing designer clothes was wearing bruises underneath them. She told herself that she was lucky, that she should be grateful, that this was just how marriage worked for women like her, women from humble beginnings who married above their station. She had become an expert at making excuses for him. When her friends asked why she winced when sitting down, she would laugh and say she fell during exercise. When her cousin noticed the makeup was thicker than usual, she would claim she was trying a new contouring technique from YouTube. When the house help heard shouting at night, Adeze would smile in the morning and say, "We were just having a passionate discussion about politics." The lies had become a second language. The performance had become her life. But, my people, you know what they say? The human spirit can bend and bend and bend. But there comes a day when it either breaks completely or it snaps back with a force that surprises even the person who owns it. For Adeze, that day was coming. She didn't know it yet, but there was a storm brewing, and its name was Chidinma. Now, my people, let me introduce you to a different kind of woman. A woman who looked at other people's marriages the way a hunter looks at prey. A woman who didn't just want love, she wanted an upgrade. Her name was Chidinma. Chidinma was what you would call a sharp babe. 28 years old, beautiful in that Instagram-filtered kind of way, with a body she maintained religiously at the gym and a closet full of clothes she bought on credit. She worked as an executive assistant at Emeka Holdings Limited, Chief Emeka's main company, and she had dreams bigger than her salary could ever afford. Every morning, Chidinma would wake up at 5 a.m., not to pray, but to plan. She would scroll through Adeze's Instagram page, studying every photo like a detective looking for clues. She would zoom in on the jewelry, screenshot the designer bags, count the exotic vacation photos. She even created a secret folder on her phone labeled Goals, where she saved every picture of Chief and Adeze together. "This is what I deserve," she would whisper to herself in the mirror while trying on cheap replicas of Adeze's outfits. "Why should she have all this when I'm smarter, younger, and more driven?" You see, Chidinma had convinced herself that Adeze was just lucky, that she had done nothing to deserve Chief Emeka except be in the right place at the right time. Chidinma looked at Adeze and saw only the surface, the money, the status, the admiration. She didn't see the price tag attached to every luxury item. She didn't see the blood price of that lifestyle. And so, Chidinma began her campaign. And my people, this girl was strategic. She didn't just throw herself at Chief Emeka like a desperate woman. No, no, no. She was subtle. She was patient. She was calculating. It started small, very small. Every morning at exactly 8:47 a.m., Chief Emeka would arrive at the office. And every morning at exactly 8:45 a.m., Chidinma would position herself at the reception area, pretending to be chatting with the receptionist about nothing important. She timed it perfectly so that when Chief Emeka walked through those glass doors, she would look up, her face lighting up with surprise, as if his arrival was an unexpected blessing. "Good morning, sir," she would say, her voice soft, respectful, with just a hint of admiration. "You're looking very sharp today. That color really suits you." Small compliments, harmless, you might think. But my people, water doesn't break a stone in one day. It drips and drips and drips until that stone has no choice but to crack. She studied him like he was a university course she needed to pass with distinction. She learned that Chief Emeka drank his coffee black, no sugar, no milk, at exactly 9 a.m. So what did Chidinma do? She started arriving at the office kitchen at 8:55 a.m. to prepare it for him. Not every day. That would be too obvious. But twice a week, she would knock on his office door with a steaming cup of perfectly brewed coffee. "Sir, I made extra and thought you might want some," she would say with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, because inside she was calculating her next move. Chief Emeka, with his ego the size of Aso Rock, would accept the coffee and think to himself, "Now this is the kind of woman who knows how to appreciate a man. Not like Adeze, who can't even make toast without burning it." Oh yes, Chidinma had also learned that Chief Emeka complained about his wife. Not to everyone, of course. He maintained his perfect husband image with most people. But sometimes, during lunch breaks with his fellow businessman cronies, he would drop little comments. "Women these days, they don't know how to treat a man anymore. They just want to spend money and give you stress." Chidinma heard these complaints through the office grapevine, and she filed them away in her mental archive labeled "Weakness I Can Exploit." She started staying late at the office. Coincidentally, the exact same nights Chief Emeka stayed late. She would walk past his office in her carefully chosen outfits, nothing too provocative, because she knew men like Chief Emeka preferred the illusion of class. A fitted pencil skirt, a silk blouse with just the top button undone, heels that made her legs look longer. "Sir, you're still here?" she would say, poking her head into his office at 8 p.m. "You work so hard. I wish more men had your dedication." More compliments, more ego stroking, more subtle hints that she saw him as something special. Then came the accidental touches. A hand on his arm when he made a joke, a brush of her shoulder against his when they were reviewing documents. Nothing aggressive, nothing that could get her fired, just enough to plant a seed in his mind. She started wearing a particular perfume, jasmine mixed with vanilla, the kind that was expensive enough to smell like money, but not so overpowering that it seemed desperate. She made sure to pass by his office when she knew he would smell it, creating an association in his brain between that scent and her presence. My people, Chidinma was running a masterclass in manipulation. She had read the books, watched the videos, studied the psychology. She knew that the way to a man like Chifemeka was through his ego, through making him feel powerful, appreciated, understood. And most importantly, she positioned herself as the opposite of Adeze. When Chifemeka complained that his wife didn't understand business, Chidima would ask intelligent questions about his company's strategy. When he mentioned that Adeze was too emotional, Chidima would be calm and logical. When he said his wife was too demanding, Chidinma would be accommodating and flexible. She was creating a fantasy woman in his mind, a woman who didn't exist, a woman who was everything his wife supposedly wasn't. 3 months into her campaign, Chidinma felt confident enough to make a bolder move. She started bringing him lunch. Home-cooked meals, packed in expensive containers with little notes attached. For a king who deserves queen treatment, one note said. Because real men deserve real food, said another. Chifemeka would eat these meals in his office, his taste buds enjoying the well-seasoned jollof rice and perfectly fried plantain, while his mind started entertaining thoughts he knew he shouldn't be entertaining. And Chidinma? She would watch from her desk, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. She could see it working. She could see him softening toward her, warming up, letting his guard down. What she didn't know, what she couldn't see, because she was too blinded by her greed and ambition, was that she wasn't hunting a prize. She was walking straight into a trap. And the trap wasn't even set by Chief Emeka. The trap was set by Adeze. And it was about to snap shut with perfect precision. It was a Thursday evening, the kind of evening when the Enugu heat finally breaks and a cool breeze reminds you that the world can be gentle sometimes. Adeze was at home, as usual, moving carefully through the house like a ghost, trying not to make noise, trying not to exist too loudly. She had just finished cleaning the sitting room for the 3rd time that day because Chief Emeka didn't like dust, and dust had a way of appearing just to spite her, or so he claimed. Her ribs still ached from where he had kicked her 3 nights before, because she had laughed too loudly during a phone call with her cousin. Apparently, her laughter was disrespectful to his presence in the house. She was about to start preparing dinner when her phone rang. It was Ngozi, Chief Emeka's secretary, an older woman who had worked for the company for 15 years and had always been kind to Adeze in that pitying way people are kind to those they feel sorry for. Madame, good evening. Ngozi's voice was careful, measured. Sir forgot his briefcase at the office, the one with the documents for tomorrow's meeting. He called and asked if you could come pick it up. He's stuck in traffic on the 9th mile and said he needs you to bring it to him. Adeze felt her stomach tighten. Any request from Chief Emeka came with the possibility of punishment if not executed perfectly. But she agreed, grabbed her car keys, and drove to the office complex in GRA. She wasn't supposed to be there. It was past 7 p.m., and most of the staff had gone home. But Ngozi had left the briefcase with the security guard, who let Adeze into the building. The elevator hummed as it carried her to the 5th floor. The hallway lights were dimmed for the evening, creating long shadows. She could see Chief Emeka's office at the end of the corridor, his door slightly ajar, light spilling out into the hallway. And then she heard it. Laughter. A woman's laughter, high-pitched and flirtatious. Then his laughter, that deep rumble that used to make her heart race in the early days before she learned what it really signaled. Something made Adeze stop walking. Some instinct, Some whisper from God or her ancestors, or just her own survival mechanism telling her, listen. She moved closer to the door, careful, silent, like a hunter tracking prey. And then she heard the voices clearly. But Chief, that was Chidima's voice, sweet like poisoned honey. A powerful man like you deserves someone who truly appreciates your greatness, someone who knows your worth. You understand me, Chidima. Chief Emeka's voice was relaxed, pleased, the voice of a man whose ego was being stroked exactly the way he liked. Not like Adeze. That woman has become too comfortable. She doesn't even try anymore. She's gained weight. She's always tired, always complaining. I give her everything, and what do I get in return? Nothing. Adeze stood in that hallway, her hand gripping the briefcase handle so tight her knuckles turned white. She had heard him insult her before, countless times, but always to her face, in their private hell. Hearing him do it to someone else, hearing him reduce their marriage to complaints and criticism, should have broken her. But something strange happened in that moment, my people. Something that Adeze herself didn't expect. Instead of her heart breaking, she felt something inside her shift, like a lock clicking open, like chains falling away. She listened as Chidinma continued, her voice dripping with fake sympathy and real ambition. Chief, you're too good for half measures. You deserve a woman who makes you feel like a king. A woman with energy, with fire, with passion. Not someone who just exists in your house like furniture. Chief Emeka laughed again. You're absolutely right. You know, Chidima, sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if I had married someone like you. Someone who actually has some spirit. Adeze expected to feel devastation. She expected tears. She expected the familiar crushing weight of worthlessness that Chief Emeka had spent 7 years building inside her chest. Instead, my people, you know what she felt? Relief. Pure, crystalline, startling relief. It hit her like lightning, that realization. She pressed her back against the wall and let out a breath she didn't even know she was holding. Her mind started working faster than it had in years, thoughts coming clear and sharp like she was waking up from a 7-year coma. She thought, this girl wants my husband. This girl is circling my marriage like a vulture. This girl thinks she's winning something. And then the thought that changed everything. What if I let her win? Adeze's mind started racing through scenarios, like a computer calculating options. If she confronted them now, Chief Emeka would deny everything, probably beat her for spying, and Chidinma would just be more careful. If she filed for divorce, Chief Emeka would fight it, drag her through the mud, use his money and connections to make her life miserable. He had always told her, if you try to leave me, I will make sure you end up with nothing. I will destroy you. But what if? What if she didn't leave? What if she let him throw her out? What if she let Chidinma have exactly what she was fighting so hard to get? A smile, small and secret, started to form on Adeze's lips. It was the first real smile she had smiled in 7 years. Not a performance for cameras, not a mask to hide pain. A real smile, born from a clarity so sharp it could cut diamond. She stood there in that hallway and she whispered to herself, to God, to the universe, "Thank you. Thank you for sending me my freedom, wrapped in Chidinma's ambition. You see, my people, in that moment, Adeze understood something profound. Chidinma wasn't her enemy. Chidinma was her salvation. This foolish, greedy girl was volunteering, actually volunteering, to take Adeze's place in hell. And Adeze, who had been looking for an escape route for years but was too afraid and too beaten down to find one, had just been handed a golden ticket out. All she had to do was make sure Chidinma wanted it badly enough. All she had to do was make Chief Emeka think replacing her was his idea. All she had to do was orchestrate her own rejection so perfectly that everyone would blame her, and she could walk away free. For the first time in 7 years, Adeze felt powerful. Not the fake power of designer clothes and luxury cars. Real power. The power that comes from seeing the game board clearly and knowing exactly how to make your move. She picked up the briefcase, turned around quietly, and left the building without confronting them. The security guard would tell Chief Emeka that his wife had come and gone. Perfect. Let him sweat a little, wondering what she heard. But Adeze wasn't going to say a word. Oh no, she had a better plan. She drove home through the Enugu night, windows down, letting the breeze blow through her hair. And for the first time in years, she felt something that had been dead for so long, she had forgotten what it felt like. Hope. My people, what happened next was a masterclass in strategy. Adeze didn't just become a bad wife overnight. No, no, no. That would be too obvious. She became what I call strategically incompetent. She transformed herself from the terrified, perfect victim into the perfectly annoying wife that would make any man beg for escape. But she did it with precision, with timing, with the kind of intelligence that comes from surviving 7 years of psychological warfare. The very next morning, Friday morning, Adeze woke up before Chief Emeka. She went to the kitchen and started preparing his breakfast. Now, normally, she would make his eggs exactly the way he liked them, fried with the yolk still soft. 2 slices of agege bread toasted to golden brown. Fresh orange juice, no pulp. Perfect breakfast for a perfect tyrant. But this morning, Adeze cracked those eggs into the pan and walked away. She went to the bathroom, took her time, brushed her teeth, hummed a little song. By the time she came back, the eggs were hard as rubber and smoking. The toast was black. The orange juice? She had forgotten to make it entirely. Chief Emeka came to the dining table expecting his usual perfect service. He looked at the plate in front of him and his face turned purple. Adeze, what is this nonsense? Normally, Adeze would have flinched, apologized, run back to the kitchen to fix it, trembling with fear. But this morning, she looked at him with wide, innocent eyes and said, "Sorry, dear. I was trying a new cooking technique I saw on YouTube. Don't you like it?" And before he could respond, before he could raise his hand, she let out a scream. Not a scream of pain, mind you, a scream of pure, dramatic flair. Why are you shouting at me so early in the morning? Is it because I made one mistake? After all I do for you, The house help came running. The gateman peeked through the window. Even the neighbors turned their heads. Chief Emeka stood there, his hand frozen halfway up, his face a mixture of rage and confusion. He couldn't hit her. Not now. Not with witnesses. His perfect husband image would crumble like burnt toast. He grabbed his car keys instead and stormed out, hungry and humiliated. Round 1 to Adeze. But she wasn't done. Oh no, my people. This was just the beginning. That weekend, there was a fundraising event at their church. The kind of event where all the big names in Enugu came to see and be seen. Chief Emeka loved these events because they were perfect stages for his performance. Adeze spent 3 hours getting ready. She tied her gele so high it nearly touched the ceiling fan. She wore her most expensive George wrapper, the one that cost 500,000 naira. She layered on her jewelry until she looked like a jewelry shop. She put on perfume so strong that you could smell her from 3 streets away. When Chief Emeka saw her, he couldn't even complain because she looked expensive. And he loved expensive things, even when they annoyed him. They arrived at the church in his Lexus SUV. As they walked to their seats, Adeze didn't walk beside him quietly like she usually did. No. She held his arm so tight he couldn't move freely. She waved at everyone like she was the Queen of England. She smiled so wide her face hurt. During the service, she sang louder than the choir. When it was time for offering, she stood up and announced, "My husband and I would like to donate 500,000 naira to this great work of God." Chief Emeka nearly choked. They had never discussed this, but everyone was clapping. Everyone was praising his generosity, and he couldn't say no without looking stingy. After the service, Adeze became his shadow. Every person he greeted, she greeted with even more enthusiasm. Every conversation he started, she joined. Every businessman he networked with, she interrupted with, "Oh, you should see my husband's new project. He's such a visionary, such a provider, such a man of God." By the end of the event, Chief Emeka was exhausted. He was used to Adeze being a quiet, pretty accessory. Now she was a loud, expensive parrot that wouldn't shut up. On the drive home, he gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white. "Adeze, what has gotten into you? Why are you embarrassing me with all this noise?" She turned to him with those same wide, innocent eyes. "Embarrassing you? But darling, I'm just showing everyone how much I love my husband. Isn't that what wives are supposed to do?" He wanted to explode, but what could he say? She was technically being a good wife. She was just being an extremely annoying version of one. The next week, Adeze continued her campaign of strategic chaos. She would cook his favorite soup, but accidentally add salt twice. "Oh dear, I must have forgotten I already added salt. My memory is not what it used to be." She would iron his shirts, but somehow create more wrinkles than she removed. "The iron was acting funny, darling. Maybe we should buy a new one. The expensive German brand." She would forget to pay the electricity bill, so they would have blackout in the middle of important football matches. "Sorry, my love. I was so busy thinking about you that it slipped my mind." At night, when he wanted to sleep, she would suddenly remember important things to discuss. "Honey, are you awake? I was thinking we should redecorate the living room. What do you think about burgundy curtains? Or maybe forest green? Or should we do both and alternate them seasonally?" Chief Emeka was going insane. Every day was a new disaster. Every meal was a gamble. Every moment at home was either chaos or Adeze clinging to him with suffocating affection. But here's the genius part, my people. In public, Adeze was still the perfect, loving, devoted wife, maybe even more perfect than before. She would post pictures of them on Facebook with captions like, "Blessed beyond measure with this wonderful man. Hashtag couple goals. Hashtag forever love. Hashtag my king." She would tell her friends, loud enough for others to hear, "My husband is so patient with me. I don't know what I'd do without such an understanding man." She was building his prison with compliments. Every public praise made it harder for him to complain about her privately without looking like the bad guy. Every social media post added another lock to his perfect husband image. And while all this was happening, while Chief Emeka was slowly losing his mind at home, Chidima was still at the office, still bringing her poisoned lunches, still wearing her jasmine perfume, still whispering her lies about understanding and appreciation. Chief Emeka started spending more time at the office. Working late, he would say, but Adeze knew better. She knew he was seeking comfort in Chidima's fantasy, and she was perfectly fine with that. In fact, she encouraged it. 2 weeks into Adeze's strategic transformation, she decided it was time to plant the final seeds in Chidima's greedy heart. But she had to be careful, subtle, because Chidima was cunning, and if the approach was too obvious, the girl might suspect a trap. So Adeze arranged an accidental meeting. It was a Saturday afternoon at the Polo Park Mall. Adeze knew, from checking Chief Emeka's credit card statements, that he had been buying lunch for business associates at the food court around this time. She also knew from basic common sense and observation that Chidima would be one of those associates. Adeze drove to the mall in her Range Rover Sport, wearing a simple but expensive outfit, her hair in a neat bun, her makeup subtle but perfect. She looked like money and class. She looked like the wife that every side chick envied. She walked through the mall slowly, browsing shops she had no interest in, keeping her eyes open. And then, right there by the entrance of ShopRite, she saw them. Chief Emeka and Chidima, sitting at a table in the food court section, sharing chicken and chips, laughing like old friends, though their knees were touching under the table in a way that suggested they were more than that. Adeze took a deep breath, put on her best, surprised but friendly face, and walked toward them. "Chief," she called out, waving. "What a surprise seeing you here." Chief Emeka's face went from relaxed to panicked in half a second. He stood up quickly, nearly knocking over his drink. "Adeze, I didn't expect. I'm having a business meeting." "Oh, I can see that," Adeze smiled sweetly, turning to Chidima. "And you must be one of his colleagues from the office. I'm Adeze, the wife." She said the wife with emphasis, smiling so warmly that it was impossible to tell if she meant it as a claim of territory or just a simple introduction. Chidima, caught off guard, smiled back nervously. "Yes, ma, I'm Chidima. I work in the executive department." "Oh, how wonderful!" Adeze sat down at their table without being invited, pulling up a chair like they were all old friends. "Chief has told me so much about his dedicated staff. You all work so hard." Chief Emeka was sweating now, looking between the two women like he was waiting for an explosion. But Adeze just kept smiling. She ordered a bottle of water and started making small talk. "Chidinma, you look so young and vibrant. I can see why Chief enjoys working with energetic people. Me, I'm getting old and tired. Marriage has really aged me." She laughed at her own joke, but there was something in the laugh, something vulnerable and real, that made Chidinma's guard lower. "Oh no, Ma," Chidinma said, relaxing a bit. "You still look beautiful." "You're too kind," Adeze sighed, playing with her wedding ring. "But I know I'm not what I used to be. 7 years of marriage, you know. It takes its toll." The conversation continued for a few more minutes, light and harmless, before Adeze excused herself. "I'll leave you two to your meeting. Nice meeting you, Chidinma. Chief, I'll see you at home for dinner." As she walked away, she could feel Chidinma's eyes on her back, calculating, assessing, comparing. Perfect. But the real move came 2 days later. Adeze went to the office to drop off some documents Chief Emeka had forgotten at home. She deliberately chose her timing, late afternoon, when most people were wrapping up work, but before everyone had left. She found Chidinma in the break room, making coffee. "Chidinma," Adeze called out warmly, as if they were old friends. Chidinma looked up, surprised. "Mrs. Adeze, good afternoon, ma." "Please, just call me Adeze," she said, sitting down at the small table in the break room. "I'm not your boss. I'm just a tired wife trying to keep up." Something about the way she said it, tired and resigned, made Chidinma curious. She sat down across from Adeze, coffee in hand. "Are you okay, ma? I mean, Adeze?" Chidinma asked, and there was genuine curiosity in her voice, mixed with that predatory interest. Adeze looked around, as if checking that they were alone, then leaned in slightly. "Can I be honest with you? Woman to woman?" Chidinma's ears practically stood at attention. "Of course." "I'm struggling," Adeze said softly, looking down at her hands. "In my marriage. I don't think I'm good enough for Chief. He's such a powerful man, such a force of nature. And me? I'm just a simple girl from a poor background. I don't have the fire, the energy, the sophistication that a man like him needs." Chidinma was drinking this up like free champagne. "But you are his wife," she said carefully, not wanting to show her hand too quickly. "I know," Adeze sighed deeply. "And my people." This sigh was worthy of an award. "But sometimes being a wife isn't enough. Sometimes a king needs a queen who can match his greatness, not someone who's just occupying space in his palace." She paused, let the words sink in, then continued. "I see how hard he works, how dedicated he is. And I wonder if I'm holding him back. If maybe he deserves someone with more energy, more passion, I don't know, more life." Chidinma was trying so hard not to smile. She was hearing exactly what she wanted to hear. Confirmation that Adeze was weak, inadequate, basically giving up. "Adeze," Chidinma said, putting on her best sympathetic voice. "Don't be so hard on yourself. I'm sure Chief appreciates you." "Does he though?" Adeze looked up, her eyes slightly wet with fake tears. "I don't know anymore. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a burden to him. Like he stays with me out of obligation, not desire. And that's no way for a man like him to live." She stood up then, wiping her eyes delicately. "Anyway, I'm sorry for burdening you with my problems. It's just, I don't have many friends, and you seem so understanding." No, it's fine," Chidinma said quickly, not wanting this valuable intelligence session to end. "Thank you," Adeze smiled sadly. "You know, Chief is lucky to have such dedicated staff. If I were the one in your position, young and smart and full of energy, I would make sure my boss felt appreciated every single day. The kind of appreciation that makes a powerful man feel truly seen. And with that perfectly placed suggestion hanging in the air like bait on a hook, Adeze left the break room. Chidinma sat there for a long moment, her mind racing. She heard, "I'm not good enough. I'm holding him back. He deserves someone with more passion." She didn't hear the trapdoor opening beneath her feet. That very evening, Chidinma went to her friend who knew about herbs and oils. Not quite a herbalist, but the kind of person who knows someone who knows someone. "I need something strong," Chidinma said. "Something that will make a man unable to resist me. Something that will make him see me as his destiny." Her friend sold her what they called captivation oil. Expensive bottle, smelled like flowers and spices, came with detailed instructions about application and timing. Chidinma followed those instructions like they were scripture. She rubbed the oil on her wrists, behind her ears, between her breasts. She wore her tightest pencil skirts and her lowest cut blouses. Always professional enough to not cause office scandal, but provocative enough to plant ideas. She increased her lunch deliveries to Chief Emeka. No longer just twice a week, now it was daily. Each meal more elaborate than the last. Egusi soup with stockfish and dried fish, jollof rice with perfectly seasoned chicken, pounded yam so smooth it could make you cry. And with each delivery came a note. Small notes. Suggestive notes. A lion should never go hungry. Real kings deserve feasts, not famine. Some women know how to truly feed a man. Chief Emeka, who was going home to burnt food and dramatic scenes every night, ate these meals and let Chidinma's poison sink deeper into his mind. Meanwhile, Adeze was watching everything unfold exactly as she had planned. She knew about the lunches because the cook at the office was the cousin of her house help and reported everything back to her. She knew about the oil because she had calculated that Chidinma was exactly the type to believe in shortcuts and magic solutions. She knew everything, and she was patient. Because good hunters don't rush. They wait for the prey to walk right into the trap of their own accord. And Chidinma was walking, step by step, closer and closer to a hell she thought was heaven. The breaking point came exactly 3 months after Adeze had first heard Chief Emeka and Chidinma at the office. She had timed everything perfectly, allowing just enough time for Chief Emeka's frustration to build, for Chidinma's confidence to peak, and for the trap to be completely set. It was a Friday evening, and the air in that Independence Layout mansion was thick with tension. You could cut it with a knife. Chief Emeka came home at 9 p.m., which was late even for his usual schedule. His belly was full of Chidinma's specially prepared egusi soup. His head was full of her whispered promises. His pride was inflated to bursting point from all her compliments. He was a man who had convinced himself that he deserved better than what he had. When he walked into his house, the first thing that hit him was the smell. Smoke. Burning food. He found Adeze in the kitchen, standing in front of a pot that was billowing dark smoke into the air. The rice was burnt to a crisp. The chicken was charcoal. Even the onions had somehow caught fire. "Adeze!" His voice shook the walls. She turned around, covered in soot, looking genuinely distressed, but also somehow defiant. I'm sorry. I was trying to make your favorite and the pot, it just what? He was purple with rage now. You are useless. Completely useless. A child could cook better than you. Normally, Adeze would have cowered, would have trembled, would have apologized until her voice was hoarse. But tonight, she opened her mouth and screamed back. Maybe I'm useless because you make me nervous. Every day it's complain, complain, complain. Nothing I do is ever good enough for you. Her voice was so loud that the neighbors could hear. The security guard at the gate shifted uncomfortably. The house help peeked from her room, wondering if she should call someone. Chief Emeka's hand twitched, rising up automatically to strike her. But then he saw the house help watching. He saw the kitchen window that looked out into the compound, where the gateman could see. He saw that his violence was about to become public, and his perfect husband mask would shatter. He lowered his hand, but his voice was ice cold. Get out of my sight. But Adeze didn't move. Instead, she crumpled to the floor, sobbing dramatically. Not quiet tears, full, loud, wailing sobs that echoed through the house. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Why don't you love me anymore? What did I do wrong? Please, tell me how to be better. It was too much. The burnt food, the public screaming, the dramatic crying, the constant chaos. For 3 months, every single day in his house had been a disaster. Every meal was gamble. Every conversation was either too loud or too needy. And in contrast, every day at the office had been peace. Chidima's smile, her efficiency, her perfectly cooked food, her quiet admiration. In his mind, the comparison was clear. Home equals chaos, office equals peace. Adeze equals burden, Chidima equals solution. Chief Emeka made his decision right there in that smoky kitchen. Adeze, he said, and his voice was final, decisive. The voice of a man who thought he was making the smartest choice of his life. I am done with this marriage. You hear me? Done. I have tried to tolerate your incompetence, your emotional outbursts, your inability to manage even the simplest tasks. But enough is enough. Adeze stopped crying and looked up at him, her eyes wide. Inside, she was celebrating. Outside, she looked devastated. Chief, please, no. Quiet, he shouted. I am bringing in a woman who knows how to treat a man. A woman who understands what I need. A woman who has fire and passion and capability. You are just dead weight dragging me down. But Chief, where will I go? Adeze's voice was small, broken. I have nothing. I am nothing without you. You should have thought about that before you became so useless, he said coldly. Pack your things. I want you out of this house by Monday morning. Chidima will be moving in this weekend. Adeze fell to the floor again, grabbing his ankles, wailing. Please, my husband! Father of the house, don't cast me out. The community will mock me. My life will be over. Please, I'll change. I'll be better. I'll take cooking classes. I'll be quiet. I'll be anything you want. Chief Emeka felt like a god. He felt powerful, in control, making tough decisions. He kicked her hands away from his ankles, gentle enough not to leave marks, but firm enough to show his dominance. "It's too late," he said. "My mind is made up. Chidima understands my worth. She will give this house the energy it needs. If you're still here Monday morning, you will regret it." He turned and walked to his study, slamming the door behind him, leaving Adeze on the kitchen floor, surrounded by burnt food and smoke. But the moment that door closed, my people, the moment she was sure he couldn't see her, Adeze's face changed. The tears stopped. The devastation vanished. A slow, satisfied smile spread across her face. "Checkmate," she whispered to herself. She stood up, dusted off her clothes, and walked calmly to the bedroom. No more trembling, no more fear. She moved with purpose now, with clarity, with freedom already flowing through her veins. She had been preparing for this moment. 3 months of careful planning. She had already moved most of her important documents to her cousin's house. Her father's watch, her mother's jewelry, the few sentimental items she owned already safely stored away. Her bank account, which Chief Emeka didn't know about, the one she had been secretly funding by skimming small amounts from housekeeping money for years, had enough to keep her comfortable for several months. She packed one small bag, just some clothes, toiletries, her phone charger. She didn't need anything else. Everything in this house was tainted with pain anyway. Saturday morning, Adeze woke up early. She got dressed simply, jeans and a t-shirt, her hair in a simple ponytail. No makeup, no expensive jewelry, just herself, raw and ready for freedom. Chief Emeka was still sleeping, exhausted from thinking about all the ways his life was about to improve with Chidima in it. Adeze walked through the house one last time, looking at the sitting room where she had been slapped for laughing too loud, the dining room where she had been starved for cooking too slow, the bedroom where she had cried herself to sleep countless nights. She felt nothing, no attachment, no regret. This house was a museum of her suffering, and she was finally leaving. She picked up her bag and walked toward the front door. And there, standing at the gate, was Chidinma. Chidinma stood there at the gate, suitcases at her feet, dressed like she was going to a wedding. Full makeup, expensive lace, heels so high she could barely stand properly. She had even hired a photographer friend to capture her moving into the mansion moment for Instagram. When she saw Adeze with her small bag walking out, Chidinma's face lit up with the most triumphant, wicked smile Adeze had ever seen. "Oh, Sister Adeze!" Chidinma called out, her voice dripping with fake sympathy mixed with real satisfaction. "Leaving already? So early in the morning?" Adeze stopped at the gate, standing face to face with her replacement. Chidinma couldn't help herself. The victory was too sweet. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper meant to wound. "Sorry, Sister Adeze, but you know how it is. Some women are just meant for certain levels. You were good for bringing him out of bachelor status, but now he needs a real woman. A woman who knows her worth. A woman who can handle a king." She looked at the mansion behind them, her eyes gleaming with greed and imagined glory. "Don't worry. I'll take good care of your husband. I'll make sure he forgets you ever existed. And this house? Oh, I already have plans. I'm going to redecorate everything. New furniture, new curtains, maybe even repaint. Can't have old energy in a new chapter. You understand?" Other women would have slapped her, would have screamed, would have caused a scene. But Adeze, my people, Adeze just stood there calmly. She looked at Chidima, really looked at her. She saw the expensive clothes bought on credit. She saw the makeup covering the desperation. She saw the greed, the ambition, the foolishness. And she smiled. A slow, knowing smile that made Chidinma's triumphant expression falter for just a second. "Chidinma," Adeze said softly, so softly that Chidinma had to lean in to hear. "Thank you." "Thank you?" Chidinma frowned, confused. "For what?" "For taking my burden," Adeze said, and her voice was sincere, genuinely grateful. "I've been praying for 7 years for deliverance. 7 years asking God to show me a way out of this nightmare. And He sent you. He sent you with your ambition and your greed and your follow me oil, and you volunteered to take my place in hell." Chidinma's smile froze on her face. Adeze continued, her voice still soft but carrying weight. "You wanted the man. You wanted the mansion. You wanted the luxury. You wanted the status. Well, sister, you have it all now. Every single bit of it. The hand that posts sweet tributes on Facebook, it's yours. The voice that calls you my queen in public, all yours. The lifestyle, the respect, the admiration, the whole package, it's all yours now." She paused, letting her words sink in, then leaned even closer and whispered the final truth. "But you also get everything that comes with it. Every single thing. The parts the cameras don't see. The parts I hid with makeup. The parts that made me sleep on the floor of my own closet. The parts that turned me into a ghost in my own home. All yours, Chidinma. All yours." For the first time since this whole thing started, Chidinma felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Something in Adeze's eyes, something in her voice, made her wonder for a split second if maybe, just maybe, she had misunderstood everything. But the thought passed quickly, drowned out by her greed and her pride. Adeze was just bitter, she told herself. Just a rejected wife trying to save face. "Keep your warnings, Sister Adeze," Chidinma said, straightening her spine, trying to regain her confidence. "I'm not you. I know how to handle a man. I know how to keep a king satisfied. You were just too weak." "You're right," Adeze said, still smiling. "You're not me. I was a victim. But you're a volunteer. And that makes all the difference." With that, Adeze walked past her, through the gate, into the street where a taxi was waiting. She had called it earlier, planned her exit to perfection. She didn't look back. Not once. Not at the mansion. Not at Chidinma. Not at the 7 years of her life she had spent in that beautiful prison. As the taxi pulled away, Adeze took out her phone and blocked Chief Emeka's number. Deleted his contacts. Deleted every photo of them together. Deleted every reminder that he had ever existed in her life. And then she called her lawyer, the one she had been consulting secretly for 2 months. "It's done," she said. "I'm out. Start the divorce proceedings. Make sure the paperwork states that I left willingly due to his request. I don't want money. I don't want property. I just want my freedom and my name back." The lawyer, a sharp woman who had handled many cases like this, said quietly, "You're sure about the money? You're entitled to—" "I'm sure," Adeze interrupted. "I don't want anything from him. Not his money, not his property, nothing. I want to be completely free. No strings, no ties, nothing he can use to track me or control me or hurt me ever again. Understood, the lawyer said. Consider it done. Adeze ended the call and looked out the taxi window at Enugu passing by, at the city that had been her cage for so long. She was going to Lagos, to a small apartment her cousin had helped her find, to a job interview she had lined up at a pharmaceutical company, to a life that belonged only to her. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Chidinma had already dragged her suitcases through the front door, her heels clicking on the marble floors, her imagination running wild with plans for redecorating, for parties, for the fabulous life she was about to live. Chief Emeka came down the stairs, saw her standing in his living room and smiled. "Welcome home, my queen," Chidinma beamed. "Thank you, my king." They stood there for a moment, the perfect couple, the new beginning, the fantasy made real. But fantasies, my people, have a way of becoming nightmares when you're not careful. That first night was supposed to be perfect. Chidinma had imagined it 1,000 times. She would walk into the master bedroom like a queen, claiming her throne. Chief Emeka would look at her with desire and gratitude. They would toast to their new beginning with expensive wine. It would be romantic, passionate, everything she had dreamed of. The reality was different. It started well enough. Chief Emeka showed her around the house, room by room. "This is all yours now," he said, his arm around her waist. "A real woman who knows how to appreciate it." Chidinma beamed. She took photos of every corner, already planning which ones she would post on Instagram later, already imagining the comments from her friends. "Wow, you've really arrived. Living your best life. Goals." They had dinner together. Chidinma had cooked, of course. She brought out the best meal she could manage. Jollof rice that was perfectly seasoned, chicken that was tender, fried plantain that was golden and sweet. She served Chief Emeka like a king, smiling, attentive, the perfect picture of a woman who had finally gotten what she wanted. Chief Emeka ate, praised her cooking, told her how different she was from Adeze. Everything was going according to plan. After dinner, they moved to the sitting room. Chidinma sat on the sofa, her legs crossed elegantly, wine glass in hand. She felt powerful. She felt victorious. She felt like this was the beginning of the fairy tale she had been writing in her head for months. "Chief," she said, her voice playful, "this room needs updating. The color is too dull. Maybe we should repaint. Something more modern. And these curtains, they're so heavy and old-fashioned. I was thinking light, flowing fabric, maybe cream or soft gold." The change in his expression was instant. One moment, Chief Emeka was relaxed, smiling. The next moment, his face hardened into something cold and dangerous. "What did you say?" His voice was quiet, too quiet. Chidinma, still riding high on her victory, didn't catch the warning. "I was just suggesting some improvements, my love. After all, I'm going to be living here now and..." "And what?" Chief Emeka stood up slowly, his full height suddenly intimidating in a way it hadn't been moments before. "And you think you have the right to start making changes to my house? My house that I built with my sweat?" Chidinma laughed nervously. "I didn't mean anything bad. I just thought..." "You thought wrong," he said, walking toward her. Let me make something very clear to you, Chidima. You are here because I allow you to be here. This is my house, my kingdom. You don't suggest changes. You don't make demands. You don't think you're in charge. The room suddenly felt smaller, colder. Chief, I was just... Chidima stood up, still trying to keep the lightness in her voice, still trying to maintain the fantasy. That's when he grabbed her arm. Not hard enough to leave marks, not yet, but firm enough to make his point. His face was inches from hers, and she could see something in his eyes that she had never seen before. Something dark. Something that reminded her of stories she had heard but never quite believed. Let me tell you how this works, he said, his voice low and controlled. You are not Adeze. Adeze was gentle. Adeze I had to mold, to train. But you came here already full of pride and ambition and ideas. You think because you cooked a few meals and smiled pretty that you've won something. You think you're special? Chidinma's heart started beating faster. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I know what you used to get here, he continued, tightening his grip slightly. I know about your charms, your oils, your manipulation. You think I didn't notice? I let you play your game because you were useful. Because I needed to get rid of Adeze and you were desperate enough to volunteer for the job. Chief, you're hurting me. Chidima tried to pull her arm away. Hurting you? He laughed, and it was the coldest sound Chidima had ever heard. This is nothing. This is me being gentle. Do you know why I married Adeze? Because she was an orphan with no one to run to. Broken and easy to control. But you're worse. You're not just broken, you're greedy. And greed is weakness I can exploit forever. He let go of her arm suddenly, and she stumbled backward. Go to that room, he pointed to the master bedroom. Go there and remember that you volunteered for this. You fought for this. You schemed and plotted and used every trick you had to get into this house. Well, congratulations. You're here now. And you will do exactly as I say, when I say it, how I say it. Or you will learn what real suffering means. Chidima felt tears starting to form in her eyes. But you said I was different. You said I understood you. I say a lot of things, Chief Emeka interrupted, pouring himself another drink, calm now, as if nothing had happened. I say what women need to hear to make them do what I want. You're not special, Chidima. You're just the next one. Adeze lasted 7 years before she became too troublesome. Let's see how long you last. That night, lying in the master bedroom that she had dreamed about for months, Chidima didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, her arms so aching where he had grabbed her, and she replayed Adeze's words at the gate. You're not a victim, you're a volunteer. For the first time since this whole thing started, Chidima understood what those words meant. Adeze had tried to warn her. Not directly, because direct warnings never work on women who are blinded by greed. But she had dropped hints. She had painted herself as weak and inadequate. She had made herself easy to replace. Because she wanted to be replaced. Because she was giving Chidima exactly what she deserved. A throne made of thorns. While Chidima was having her first sleepless night in her new prison, Adeze was waking up in her small one-bedroom apartment in Lekki Phase 1, Lagos. The apartment was nothing like the mansion. It was small. The furniture was simple. There was no marble floor, no chandelier, no walk-in closet full of designer clothes. But when Adeze opened her eyes that Sunday morning, the first thing she noticed was the silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. No heavy footsteps coming toward her room. No voice shouting her name, demanding this or that. No fear tightening her chest, wondering what she had done wrong this time. She got up slowly, stretched, and walked to her small kitchen. She made herself a cup of coffee. Just coffee. She didn't have to make it perfect. She didn't have to measure the temperature. She could make it however she liked because this was her kitchen, her coffee, her morning. She took that coffee to her tiny balcony, sat on the plastic chair she had bought from the roadside, and looked out at Lagos waking up. Cars honking, traders setting up their stalls, life happening all around her. And she smiled. A real smile. The kind that comes from deep inside your soul when you finally realize that you're free. Her phone buzzed. It was her lawyer. "Good morning, Adeze. Just wanted to update you." Chief Emeka signed the divorce papers without contesting. He was actually eager to sign. "You're officially free." "Thank you," Adeze said softly. "One more thing," the lawyer added. "Are you sure you don't want to claim any of the property or assets? You're legally entitled to—" "I'm sure," Adeze interrupted. "I don't want anything from him. Not his money, not his property, nothing. I just want my freedom." "Well," the lawyer said, "you have it now. Congratulations, Miss Okafor. You're a free woman." Adeze ended the call and took another sip of her coffee. Miss Okafor. Her maiden name. Her real name. The name that belonged to her before Chief Emeka tried to erase her identity. She thought about Chidinma briefly, wondered if the girl had figured it out yet. Wondered if she was lying awake in that expensive bed, realizing that she hadn't won a husband, she'd won a life sentence. Adeze didn't feel guilty. How could she? Chidinma had fought tooth and nail for that position, had schemed and manipulated and used every trick in the book. She had wanted it so badly that she ignored every warning sign, every hint, every opportunity to walk away. Some lessons, Adeze thought, can only be learned through experience. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her cousin. "Interview at the pharmaceutical company is confirmed for tomorrow, 10 a.m. You're going to do great. Proud of you for starting over." Starting over. The words felt heavy with possibility. Adeze was 32 years old. She had no husband, no mansion, no luxury cars, no designer wardrobe, no social media envy. But she had something more valuable than all of that combined. She had herself back. My people, we have reached the end of this story, but I hope the lesson is just beginning in your minds. Let me tell you what happened in the months that followed, because you deserve to know how this story continues. Chidinma stayed with Chief Emeka for 8 months. 8 long, painful months, where she learned that everything Adeze had endured, she now endured too. The verbal abuse, the physical violence, the isolation, the fear. She tried to leave twice. The first time, Chief Emeka threatened to release the intimate photos he had taken of her without her knowledge. photos that would destroy her reputation. The second time, he locked her in the house for 3 days until she learned her place. Eventually, she did escape, broken, traumatized, and humiliated. She had to move back to her family's house in the village, pregnant with a child Chief Emeka denied was his. The Instagram account she had planned to fill with mansion photos, deleted. The friends who were supposed to envy her new life, gone. The fantasy she had built in her mind, shattered like glass. As for Chief Emeka, he's still out there, still performing in public, still the perfect gentleman at weddings and church services, still searching for his next victim to replace Chidinma. Because men like him don't change, they just change victims. But Adeze, my people, Adeze thrived. She got that job at the pharmaceutical company, started as a junior sales representative, and within a year got promoted. She made real friends, the kind who liked her for who she was, not for who her husband was. She started therapy to heal from the trauma. She learned to trust again, slowly, carefully. And 2 years after leaving that mansion, she met someone, a quiet accountant named Chidi, who worked in the same building. He wasn't flashy. He didn't drive a luxury car or own multiple properties. He didn't make grand public declarations of love. But he was kind, genuinely kind. The kind of kind that doesn't change when the door closes. The kind that asks, "How was your day?" and actually listens to the answer. The kind that splits house chores without being asked. The kind that respects no and celebrates yes. And when Adeze finally, after a year of dating, introduced him to her family, her cousin pulled her aside and asked, "Are you sure about this one? He's so ordinary, so simple." And Adeze laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from wisdom earned through pain. That's exactly why I'm sure. I've had extraordinary. I've had flashy. I've had the man everyone envied me for having. Never again. Give me ordinary. Give me simple. Give me peace. Now, my people, let me bring this home with the lessons you need to carry with you. Not everything that glitters is gold. Some of it is just shiny paint covering rust and rot. Before you envy another woman's marriage, remember that you only see what they allow you to see. The performance in public means nothing if hell breaks loose in private. Not every woman who loses her husband has actually lost. Some women are strategically divesting from toxic assets. Some women are escaping with their lives and calling it a blessing. Before you celebrate being the side chick who won, ask yourself what exactly you've won. When a woman makes it very easy for you to take her man, when she practically hands him over without a fight, pause. Stop and think. Why would someone give up something valuable so easily? Maybe, just maybe, she knows something you don't. Maybe she's not losing. Maybe she's escaping. And maybe, just maybe, you're not winning. You're volunteering for her nightmare. The best revenge is not getting revenge. It's getting free. It's rebuilding. It's healing. It's living a life so peaceful that you forget the chaos you left behind. Adeze didn't need to destroy Chief Emeka. She just needed to stop letting him destroy her. And finally, before you kill yourself trying to snatch what another woman has, remember this. You don't know the price she's paying for it. You don't know the tears she cries when the Instagram photos are posted. You don't know the bruises she hides under the designer clothes. You don't know that what you think is a palace might actually be a prison with expensive wallpaper. So, my people, I leave you with this. May your eyes see clearly and not be blinded by shine. May your heart desire peace over prestige. May you recognize that sometimes the smallest apartment holds more love than the biggest mansion. May you understand that freedom is priceless and no amount of designer bags can replace it. And may you never, ever mistake another woman's escape plan for your come-up. Now, if this story has touched you, if it has opened your eyes, if it has made you think twice about envying what you cannot see fully, I need you to do something for me. Share this story. Share it with that friend who's eyeing another woman's husband. Share it with that sister who thinks the grass is greener on the other side. Share it with that daughter who needs to understand that not all that glitters is worth having. Hit that share button right now. Send it to your WhatsApp groups. Post it on your timeline. Because somewhere out there, there's another Chidinma plotting and scheming. And somewhere out there, there's another Adeze, quietly surviving, looking for a way out. And maybe, just maybe, this story will make one woman pause before she volunteers for hell. Maybe it will give one woman the courage to escape her own. And maybe, just maybe, it will teach us all that the best things in life are not always the most expensive, the most flashy, or the most envied. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever envied someone's relationship only to find out later what was really happening behind closed doors? Have you learned this lesson the hard way, or are you learning it now? Your story could save someone else. And if you're going through something similar to Adeze right now, if you're trapped in a situation where the outside looks perfect, but the inside is hell, hear me clearly. You deserve better. You deserve peace. You deserve freedom. And it's never too late to walk away. Sometimes the best thing in life is simply peace, freedom, safety, self. I have spoken, and I hope you have heard. Until we meet again, may your blessings be real, may your freedom be complete, and may you never have to learn these lessons the hard way. And remember, not everyone who loses has lost. Sometimes losing is the biggest win of your life. Now go ahead and share this message. Someone needs to hear it today.